The hero is a regular guy who just hangs in there 5 minutes longer than anybody else. And that's what this play is filled with, 25 guys who hung in there 5 minutes longer than anybody else.
1776 as a show is a retelling in the style of musical theater of the lead up to the Declaration of Independence, which was also the lead up to the Revolutionary War.
Some states are adamantly opposed to it, some states are all for it.
There were issues of slavery and questions about what would happen.
It was the middle of the summer, it was hot. They wanted to go home, they were not really interested in prolonging this debate.
America just didn't, I guess, come to be very easily.
John Adams was pretty much the instigator. Even though he didn't physically write the Declaration, he was kind of the person that kept it moving.
He certainly always kind of characterizes himself as not being as charismatic as General Washington or famous as Ben Franklin or eloquent like Thomas Jefferson. And ultimately he doesn't really care how he's remembered, he just wants this to happen so passionately.
He was the one person who thought this is too important for us to stop.
I've known Jeff Messer for a really long time, and he's actually one of my best friends in the world. You know, we have this really warm, frank, very collaborative relationship with each other.
Andrew and some of the folks here thought, well, you know, we need somebody who has that obnoxious, you know, trait that he shares with John Adams to play the part.
He's perfect for John Adams. Thomas Jefferson, especially in the way that this particular show goes, he's the silent partner.
Well, Thomas Jefferson, of course, wrote the Declaration of Independence, and he was also, you know, like Adams and Franklin and many of the men who were in that Second Continental Congress, you know, just phenomenally smart.
He obviously has great ideas. He doesn't talk a lot. He likes to put it down on paper. But when he's asked, he cannot actually get anything to come out because he's thinking about his wife.
Jefferson is newly married and wants to be at home with his wife, or wants to be with his wife.
He can't get the inspiration until he has his wife there because he just wants to get home. He just wants to leave the whole time.
He isn't really all that interested in hammering out all of these political details.
So that's why they bring her in, so he can have her there and then get on with it.
Benjamin Franklin was fairly instrumental in as much as the 1776 story tells it, siding with John Adams and Thomas Jefferson to really push the whole thing through and make it happen.
At the time of the Second Continental Congress, Benjamin Franklin was you know, one of the most famous men in the 13 colonies.
You know, he was a ladies' man, even for his age. He's one of the most quoted human beings who ever lived. You better get the lines right, because everybody knows what he said.
1776 is very different from most musicals.
There's not a lot of music in it, and the way that the music is sort of woven into it is it's very effective.
Sit Down John is certainly very exciting. It starts out the show. We've got all of these men arguing with each other.
You have, you know, John Adams basically arguing with every single other person in the course of this song, and there's all of them and one of him, and they're equal.
I would say, is anybody there? The John Adams song has probably always been my all-time favorite song. I used to sing it walking around the house.
Abigail Adams, who's played by, you know, Rochelle Roberts, has this sort of beautiful angelic voice, and you know, Ben Franklin sort of has this sort of, like, you know, frat boy, curmudgeonly, you know, approach to his singing, and John Adams doesn't sing beautifully, but he's so passionate in the lyrics that he's given.
Once I find the character voice, then that sort of informs what the musical voice is going to sound like, and it may not be pitch perfect, and it may not be note perfect, and thank goodness this show doesn't really ask for that.
So I think all of those things contribute to a more, I guess, empathic understanding of these characters than if they just talked. We have a really good creative staff, and they make the actors and me look really, really good, and we couldn't do what we do without them. And we have Amy, who's our stage manager. She's marshalling about 27 actors and me all at the same time, and Bruce Chavala, who is the set designer. He's just so fantastic, and he picks up It's right where I leave off. We have a great deal of fun figuring out how to do these things, and the fact that that's our job is great. We're here to tell a story, and that's what we're doing. And just sort of imagining, again, what it would have been like to be in that room as a human being. Even though we know how it ends, it's a fascinating story.
They were ordinary men who did extraordinary things.
It's amazing that a nation was ever born out of some of the attitudes that were in that room and just all the discontentment.
Hopefully the audience will take away a lot more than just fireworks and pomp and parade and things like that.